Strasbourg, France. I arrived in Strasbourg as part of a Viking river cruise. I participated in a 2-hour walking tour of the city and then spent the rest of the day freely roaming the town. I love Strasbourg. I had no expectations and was wonderfully surprised at how gorgeous the city was. I traversed almost every street in the old town and felt like I experienced all the important highlights in one day. After visiting, I would recommend several things to see and do, which I will describe below. However, visiting these points of interest should be in tandem with enjoying the architecture and building adornments, wandering into the fun and quirky shops, and experiencing some of the culinary delights the city has to offer. In other words, Strasbourg is more than its historical buildings. Our riverboat docked on the German side of the Rhine River near the city of Kehl, so anyone wanting to spend a full day in Strasbourg had to join an excursion. We boarded a bus at 8:30 in the morning and were dropped off on the outskirts of Old Town. The guide then led us into the historic district, walking very slowly and pointing out various buildings, which were all architecturally fascinating. Our first stop was a large plaza called Place Kleber, which seemed to be setting up for the holiday season. It was a beautiful plaza with fountains, statues, and majestic buildings. Eventually we arrived at Petite-France, with canals and half-timbered houses lining the water. It was so pretty. The buildings reminded me of gingerbread houses. So charming. This entire quarter looked like something out of a fairy tale. Very magical, and definitely one of the highlights of Strasbourg. Here are some more images of this area with its beautiful canals. The group then headed to the Gutenburg Plaza, where there is a carousel. We were told they were dismantling the carousel to make room for Christmas decorations. From there we could see the Cathedral Notre Dame, which is the main historical site of the city. The tour ended at that point, so we walked immediately to the cathedral. It is probably the most intricately ornate cathedral I have seen. Every square inch has some decorative element. At 466 feet, it was once the world's tallest building until 1874. It is impressive when you walk in. You immediately notice the very intricate stained glass windows, the pulpit rising above the pews, the massive organ adjacent to it, and the very high arched ceiling. One of the major attractions inside the cathedral is found in the south transept. It is an astronomical clock that is 59 feet high and shows much more than the time. The clock also indicates solar time, the day of the week, the month, the year, the sign of the zodiac, the phase of the moon, and the position of several planets. Pretty wild, huh? It's quite an amazing piece of engineering considering it was designed so many years ago. After the cathedral, a fellow passenger and I walked up and down the streets. After covering just about every inch of Old Town, I now rank Strasbourg as one of the most beautiful cities I have ever visited. Even though it was a bit gloomy out that day, there was hardly a street that wasn't postcard picture perfect. Every time I turned a corner, I would see another charming street. It was a Monday, and we were told many of the shops wouldn't open until 2 p.m. Yet there was a patisserie, cheese shop, or novelty shop open on just about every block in town. Here are several more images of the Strasbourg streets and architecture. Eventually we selected a restaurant, Vino Strada, and had a marvelous meal. Lovely people that accommodated our English and presented beautiful food. On the way to our next destination, we stumbled across Maison Kammerzell. I had read about it when researching Strasbourg and knew it was a famous restaurant. I peeked through the window and could see photos of celebrities on the wall. I walked around to the front and asked if I could take some video because the interior was just stunning. Look at these arched ceilings. Since we had already eaten, we didn't stay, but it might be a place to consider eating if you visit. We set off walking again and headed to Barrage Vauban, or Vauban Dam, which is a bridge, a dam, and a defensive work erected in the 17th century. Currently, it is a covered bridge which houses historical artifacts. There is a lookout on top of it, but it was closed for the day. Adjacent to it are 3 towers, the Ponts Couverts, a defensive fortification from the 13th century. These towers used to be connected by bridges, but now stand alone. The former dam and towers all formed a beautiful setting from numerous vantage points. At this point, we had to head back to a meeting point to be escorted to our bus for the return to the boat. If you plan to visit Strasbourg, it is easy to traverse the Old Town in a day. However, there are more things to explore if you have the time. There are numerous museums, some lovely parks that are outside of Old Town, and of course there is nightlife. When I travel, I rarely want to return to a place I've already been. However, I'd love to return to Strasbourg. The city just had so much to offer that I'd like more time to take it all in. For senior and solo travelers, the Old Town area was crowded as the day wore on, but felt very safe and friendly. As with any tourist destination, always keep an eye on your belongings. There were a few stairs and slight hills to navigate, but the town was mostly flat. I have posted additional videos on this Viking Rhine Getaway river cruise, and have included links in the description below. I'll leave you with some more images of this gorgeous city. There was just so much to see and not enough time. As always, if you have questions, feel free to ask in the comments section, and check out the Senior Solo Travel website and Facebook forum where you can interact with other travelers. And if you'd like to follow my senior and solo travel journeys, please like and subscribe. Cheers!